some don't vote at all. Now well, look, don't talk about the campaign. Some of them speakers could give you gripe. Just imagine one night in St. Augustine, a woman boasting about she husband pipe. But with all the boast she was boasting, I hear the pipe is just a tap. But you know the people who was listening. Mama, yo, if you hear them clap, you know why? Some vote for party, some vote for race. They don't care about the anti and this crisis that we face. Some vote for roti, some will vote for alcohol, some will vote for URP, and some don't vote at all. What you vote for? What you vote for? Huh? Oh, you have vote? You have vote?
Welcome to the Late Night Show. Hope everything is okay. Hope everything is all right. I'm your host, Andrew Day. All right, let me begin. What's happening on the lovely island of St. Martin? We begin, of course, with the news. The Minister of Nothing. People are asking for his resignation, people. I just don't understand what's happening. The Council of Ministers looks like they don't want to work with him anymore, and Minister Rudolph Samuel looks like he is in trouble. Why I say that is, first, Auntie Sarah, she sounded the alarm during a recent press conference where she said the following.
I need to point, for example, to a meeting that was held on Monday, a meeting urgently requested of the Education Committee of Parliament to talk about the very same teachers' issues. And that meeting was convened, it was asked for by a member of parliament, it was convened, and then in the meeting, we see an interaction taking place between especially coalition MPs and the minister that make you go, And then to hear some of, I can only consider it rumors, that started then to circulate about the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports having been asked to tender his resignation. I'm like, what is really going on in this country of ours? Because while all of that is taking place, the very important issues for the people of St. Martin are being neglected,
Now, after that, PJD2, Stephen Sir William, very good colleague of mine, decided to ask in the Council of Ministers press briefing the question directly to the Prime Minister. You getting rid of him, yes or no? He didn't say it in those words, but this is what he meant. Do you still want to work with him? Did you ask him to resign? What is happening with the National Alliance? This was the Prime Minister's response.
How are things within the Council of Ministers? The reason why that question, it has been widely speculated that you, Prime Minister, has requested that the Minister of Education resigned. Is there any truth to that?
Very interesting question. I know I don't usually deal with the politics on the government's platform, As a Council of Ministers, we continue to work as a team to execute the governing program that we have put forward with the support of our Parliament. And that's all I'm prepared to say on the matter at this moment.
Now, of course, the dynamic. Is it possible that a sitting minister can be asked to resign? Of course, the Prime Minister can ask, but the Council of Ministers can't do nothing about it because, of course, they are appointed. They're appointed by a majority of Parliament. So the only way you can get rid of a minister is if you basically bring a motion of no confidence in Parliament. Will the 7 opposition members in Parliament give the current coalition members, well, we have 8 members in the coalition, actually. But anyway, I still like to say 7. But because there's always a flip. You never know whether Akeem decides to show up. You never know whether Chanel decides to show up. Oh, I didn't know it was today. I'm sorry. I missed it. But in any case, a vote of no confidence can come from the opposition. But why would the opposition help the majority of Parliament get rid of a minister that they want to get rid of? You never heard something like that. So basically now the question is, will the coalition fire somebody that they put there? And it's not unorthodox because they did that with Krisha Heilige Martin, so they can do that with Minister Samuel. But it has to be justified. Has anything in education been done since Minister Samuel has taken the office? I'm sure Stuart Johnson will be very, very quick to answer and say, hey! But in any case, we're still watching to see what's going to happen with the situation. I know that the National Alliance has no interest in letting Minister Samuel run for the next election, so they are finished with him and they want him to resign, and they want somebody else to take over the education ministry just before elections. It makes no sense because the screening would take months, and then before you know it, it's elections. It makes absolutely no sense for him to resign. So therefore, he's just going to stick in the office. However, we're hearing that he is moving the Ministry of Education from the government administration building, and he's moving it to the inspection of education building, and he is going to stay there to just be torn in the ass of the Minister of General Affairs, which is the Prime Minister, because he's like, I was in National Alliance before you was even born, madam. No, I stay right here. I ain't going nowhere. I would have done the same. So we're waiting to see what's going to happen with this whole situation when it comes to the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, but they want him out. I know that the Now Party is asking him to come over to the better side, the orange side, so that they can run him as a candidate. Last time the minister did receive about 200 and something votes, so he's good for that amount. Should he retire or should he join the Now Party? You never know. It's going to be some interesting times. In some other news, Uncle George went in on the Dutch people. Oh, he was like democratic deficit. What? We don't want to pay you back. I want you to just completely wipe me clean. Clean, clean, clean. I don't want to pay you nothing. Why? Because you had us as slaves. He didn't say it in those words, but he made a very strong statement during the IPKO delegation meetings in Curacao last week. We have that clip for you.
Because the king himself said that he was not part, let me paraphrase him, of the slavery or the slave trade or whatever. But in essence, if you look at the history, just Google Dutch slavery in the Caribbean, and you realize that the Dutch did benefit financially from slave trade in the Caribbean. So in other words, it means that today the Netherlands is also a financially strong country because of the slave trade. My question now today is, how do we proceed? Because what would St. Martin, what would Aruba, Curacao have looked like today had there been no slavery? Where would we be? Developed or underdeveloped? There are countries in Africa who are saying now what they want, not in Africa, sorry, but the Caribbean Repertory Commission is busy assessing. As a matter of fact, there's a book that is written called Britain's Black Debt, where it shows when slavery was so-called abolished, where the slaves had to pay the slave masters. Because why? Because of the abolition of slavery, the slave masters lost money. And that's why I think it is not right that we cannot say today, debt cancellation. Debt cancellation. Because why? It will be a beginning of reparatory justice, financial-wise. So all I'm asking, do not allow yourselves to say, well, you know, it's not me, it's not I. We today are in the situation we are today because of slavery, and unfortunately the consistent laws that have been placed upon us in order for us to remain as we are. There's a saying that the lender or the borrower is slave to the lender. The borrower is slave to the lender. And right now, St. Martin owes about 1.2 billion or 1.4 billion guineas to the Dutch government. I understood that we're paying 12.7 million on an annual basis. Multiplied by 80 years, we'll still be paying. For me, that's modern slavery. If we want to be independent financially, then I believe the debt should be canceled, and I believe we have a right to such. Some might differ, but that is my argument. I'll remain with that. In fact,
Okay, Uncle George. Okay, Uncle George. All right. Today we have an interview with Olivier Arinel. Yes, Olivier Arinel. For those who don't know Olivier, he's from St. Martin. He currently lives in the Dominican Republic, and he was a politician here. He's a businessman, and it's good to bring old politicians on the show and find out what they're thinking, and also what they think about this whole situation, what's happening in government. So we'll go to that interview, and of course you're watching the Late Night Show. Let's begin.
At SXM, we're taking travel and tourism to new heights. Here we boast spacious check-in areas, 10 passport control points, comfortable departure lounges, and finally, there's an airport in the Caribbean that takes your travel plans as seriously as you do. Princess Juliana International Airport.